Living with an inner critic is exhausting. Instead of pushing me toward my best, it often does the opposite. Draining my energy, making me second guess myself, and leaving me frustrated. I sit down to work and my brain would hit me with, "This is pointless, you can't do it, you are worthless." And just like that, I'd close my laptop and feel worse than before. And if you ever try to silence that inner voice by just being kinder to yourself, it's not that simple. But what if we've been looking at self-compassion the wrong way? What if there's a whole other side to it? One that's not about being soft, but about something else entirely. In this video, you will get crazy insights about self-compassion, beyond cliches, beyond the be kind to yourself advice, and by the end, you might see self-compassion in a way you never have before. I want to look at self-compassion from different angles and present my point of view here, and I think it will be very helpful for you as well to explore this with me, because if we march on that path and we practice self-compassion, our life changes. Our sense of self changes, our sense of connectedness changes. We feel more connected to our people and to this planet. So let's explore this together. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm having this pencil in my hand, this is an Apple pen, and I thought I'm trying something new here and draw maybe during the session. I don't know if I will, but I will try to mix things up a little bit. Probably I will just play with this thing most of the time, but that's good enough. So one fun fact about self-compassion is I actually just learned it recently. If you know it, please don't be angry with me. But it comes from Latin, and it actually means to suffer with. So compassion comes from Latin and means compati. Obviously, in compassion, we will suffer with the person we look at. And so we feel this person's pain. And that should make us motivated to help alleviate this pain, this suffering of this other person. So who do we suffer with in self-compassion? And obviously with ourselves. So yeah, this practice actually literally hurts because it means we must acknowledge our pain and we have to sit with it. And that means we have to meet ourselves in moments when we feel most frustrated, when we feel ashamed and inadequate. But of course, that's just the foundation. I don't want to even talk about that stuff because that's what you probably maybe already know. So I promise much more in this video. I want to explore something that you might have not heard about, and I will present you an angle that you probably don't know, because self-compassion, in my opinion, has at least two sides. And most people usually just focus on one, and that's where many of those problems arise. I'd like to think of it as yin and yang. Yin and yang is this image here. You can see it over there. They are two forces, black and white, that seem almost to oppose each other. Right? But actually, they are interconnected. Yin is the soft, calm, nurturing energy, while yang is the bright, proactive, and empowering side. And with the little dots here, you can see that every side carries a spark of its counterpart. So together, they create a whole. I love that. So let's talk about yang self-compassion first. Think of the last time you had to travel by plane, and every single time without fail we have to watch the safety instructions, and nobody gives a damn about it anymore if they fly often. And but that's not the point. The point is that every time you watch these instructions, they remind you that it's important for you to take the oxygen mask and you have to use it first. Even though you have a son, a daughter, or other people you take care of. And as a child, traveling with my mom the first time, I was watching that and I thought, wait a moment. Mommy is putting her mask on first? What about me? What about little Patrick? So selfish of her. Of course, now I know better. Mommy needs to put herself first in order to help little Patrick. If she passes out, she cannot help little Patrick. So in real life, how often do you ignore this oxygen mask, and you put everyone else first? And then you wonder why you're exhausted, why you feel resentful, why you think you're running on fumes. No, that's why the yang compassion the yang self-compassion is so important. Yang self-compassion is like the oxygen mask. So remember, saying no to extra work when you are already overwhelmed isn't selfish, it's putting on your oxygen mask. And if you are letting go of toxic relationships, that is not cruel, that is you making sure that you can breathe. And when you are saying, hey, it's time to put myself first, it's exactly that allows you to show up for others without losing yourself. By the way, if you enjoy this video, I would appreciate it so much if you just boop the like button, or if you haven't already, you subscribe to my channel, or share this video with anyone who you think could benefit from that stuff. All right, let's move on. And there's another example I really love, and that is the mama bear. A mama bear is this huge, nurturing, protective creature. Massive. A massive mama. And she plays with her cubs, keeps them warm, and makes sure they are safe. There is a reason humans don't want to be near a mama bear, at least not the grizzly mama bear, when she's with her cubs. You just don't want that. Hell no. I mean, the mama bear, if she sees you, the grizzly mama bear, she doesn't sit down and thinks, maybe I should be nicer. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe they don't mean any harm. No. She will sink her fucking teeth into your forearm, swallow you whole, and you die. And then the beer cups will have a big feast and everybody eats you. Okay, sorry, I think I got a little bit carried away here. But just bear in mind. Okay, I'll stop. Now, imagine you are the cub. Would you want your mother to debate and ask her feelings, how she feels about incoming danger? Or do you want your mother to step in actually and protect you and defend you? Of course you would. And the bear mama would. That's why you should really be very far away from a grizzly mama. And in a sense, we are that grizzly mama and the cub in one person. You know, there's this part in us that protects, provides, motivates. It's the part in you that sets boundaries, takes action, and asserts itself. You know, it's that side that says, I deserve better than this. I can take on some extra work right now. I'm capable of more, and I'm gonna prove it. Okay, so far, so good. Oh, I forgot my pencil. So here, so far, so good. I still didn't draw anything, but yin, on the other hand, is the soft, nurturing side. It's the part within us that knows how to be kind when you're struggling. It's comforting, accepting, soothing, especially towards yourself, you know? It tells you, hey, it's okay. Don't worry. You're doing your best. It's that voice that reminds you when you're exhausted, that reassures you that it's okay. Whatever's happening, it's going to be okay. Every time you feel like you messed up. And yeah, that can include a nice warm bubble bath in winter or a nice long walk along the beach. That is important too. Some people never do that. And for some, it's second nature. I actually loved bubble bath as a child. I would do them so often. My mom would tell me to stop doing it so often because it costs a lot of money. Anyway, maybe you struggle with the young self-compassion and you think it's selfish to protect your time, your energy. So you let other people overstep your boundaries. You avoid difficult conversations. You hold back from taking action because you don't want to seem selfish or aggressive. If you only practice yin self-compassion, you might be very kind to yourself, but you never really change anything. You stay passive, you know, and you might stay stuck with the same relationships, the same people, the same job, because you are not willing to take action, to leave your comfort zone. If you only practice yang self-compassion, on the other hand, you might be a hard worker with clear boundaries, but you might burn out because you don't take breaks. So I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. 3 questions. We are good friends today. We are really becoming good friends. Yeah, 3 questions. Do I allow myself to rest without feeling guilty? Do I protect my time and energy? Now we have a question that combines both yin and yang in one. Do I motivate myself with encouragement instead of shame? So which side do you struggle with the most? I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Personally, I think I'm a bit stuck sometimes with the young self-compassion. I can set boundaries. I do like to take action. I do think I know what's best for me. But sometimes I might still be very harsh to me. Like I told you in the beginning, I have this strong inner critic that tells me like it's not enough. You need to do more. You need to be productive. You need to do this. And sometimes I should sit down and just be nice to myself. Not just having I meditate, I do things that I think are soothing for me, but then I might not do enough work with my thoughts, right? You might observe them, but do I interact with them? And that's where the internal family system comes in that I presented you in the last video, which is extremely powerful for that, which has been helping me a lot with this inner self-critic. If you haven't, I would recommend you watch that. But you should definitely stick around for the next one because it is about to get juicy and highly controversial. So, self-compassion actually dissolves our sense of self. Let me explain. When we practice self-compassion, something unexpected happens. We move away from that harsh, judgmental part of ourselves. Call it the inner critic, call it ego, whatever. Whatever it is, through practice, we are able to take a step back and look at these parts as not our whole self. It might be a part of us, a voice inside our head, of course, but we are able to take a step back and detach from them. We realize that we are not that nasty, nagging voice. So in a sense, we become more self-aware, right? But at the same time, our rigid, fixed image of ourselves starts to dissolve. You see, we love to hold on to our shortcomings, our flaws, our mistakes, We love to hang on to them. But with practice, we open ourselves up to who we actually are right now, in this very moment. And we create space for a more expansive, a more forgiving, and more open sense of self. And the cool thing about that is, if we feel connected like that to ourselves, we also feel connected to other people. You might say now, well, Patrick, didn't you just say that self-compassion also means to set boundaries? Wouldn't that establish a separation between you and other people? And this contradicts each other, right? How is our sense of self dissolving? And I got you. On the surface, this seems like a contradiction. On one hand, self-compassion means setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, and protecting your energy. And this kind of reinforces our sense of self. And on the other hand, deep self-compassion can soften our identity, where we realize that we are not our thoughts, emotions, or even our inner critic. Right? So this is a little paradoxical. It's a bit tricky, I know. But hear me out. This is mind-blowing and potentially life-changing if you understand this. I have two things to say about that. Number one is, if you never set boundaries, you lose yourself in other people's expectations. You become resentful, exhausted, and disconnected from who you really are. I mean, think about that. I'm a musician, and as a musician, I need structure to play music. I need a scale, I need rhythm, to play with other people too. So there needs to be some sort of limitations in order to even create something, to go into a flow with other people, with other instruments. So without that, there's just chaos. And boundaries are like that structure in a way. They don't cage you in, but they give you the freedom to express yourself freely. Number two is the part of you that feels unworthy, that beats yourself up, that thinks you need to prove yourself. That's the false self that self-compassion dissolves, right? That's a big one. That is basically what this is all about, like that we are trying to get some distance between this inner critic, right, that beats ourselves up, that we come to realize as a part of us, but not as our whole self. When you truly accept yourself, you don't need to constantly defend or justify your existence. You don't need to cling to an identity that's built on fear, performance, or approval seeking. This is where the yin self-compassion is taking over, because instead of holding our self-image that is rigid, reactive, or based on external validation, you develop a self that is fluid, open, and resilient. By the way, resilient, that's why when you work with athletes, you don't really sell self-compassion, but they will need it in order to perform well. What you could say, for example, is something like build inner resilience. Resilience sounds much nicer, right? It's all about, marketing the right terms, and in the end, it's similar exercises. But I think men or athletes, the more masculine people probably like more the yang side of it. And if you want to also have some yin in there, you should sell it as inner resilience. Resilience sounds just great. I love that word, by the way. And this young self-compassion, it builds a strong, healthy self, right? So that you don't feel drained all the time, that you can show up for other people and for yourself. The next truth about self-compassion is if we allow ourselves to be with our own pain, to acknowledge our suffering, right? To know where it is in our body, we will feel more free, more at ease with ourselves. And here's the beauty about true self-compassion. When we feel really in tune with ourselves, we can feel in tune with other humans. Because ultimately, that's what connects us, Joy, suffering, we all in it together, right? We might have our own personal stories, our individual stories, our own different sufferings. But if I know I suffer, I know you suffer. That ultimately leads to empathy, to a connection, right? That's not the only mechanic that leads to a sense of connection, but I think it's a pretty strong one for us humans to know that we are all in this together. And then we also don't fall into this trap of confusing compassion with pity, right? Because the difference is that we really feel the other person and we don't put ourselves on a pedestal. We don't think like, oh, look at what this person doesn't have. I don't want to change with that person, right? That's not how compassion feels like. When we feel compassion instead of pity, we are in a space where we want to empower other people. Think of a houseless person for a moment. If you feel pity, you might still give money, but you will hope that they don't drink vodka, that they don't buy vodka or cigarettes from that money. If you feel compassion, you give them the money and you don't care what they do with this. If they want to buy vodka, that might be the best choice they have in their situation. They might be sick, they might be in pain, they might, have no other choice than to buy vodka to ease the pain, right? You won't take away their dignity. You respect their dignity. All right, keep it real, humans. See you next time.